Hello and welcome to this channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I am a registered nurse with extensive hospice experience. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. In this channel, we talk about a variety of topics: hospice nursing, dealing with grief, whether it be anticipatory or after the fact. We talk about gratitude. We talk about semi-retirement to retirement topics, as I am semi-retired at this time, and book publishing as part of the record, so to speak. I typically start every video off looking at what am I grateful for since we've last had a discussion. And I encourage you to, on a regular basis, what are you grateful for? So the last time I published was this past Wednesday. It's the 21st of February as this is being recorded now. And I'm grateful that the books I've been publishing have been selling. I started going every Friday to a local men's breakfast. Hi, Chris, Paul, Christian, Nate, if you're watching, Riley, and others. And that's been very, very helpful. And Chris asked me, what am I grateful for? What happened this week? And The Art of Hospice Prognosis is published. A number of copies. I believe it's under 5 at this point have sold. That I know that's not a lot. But month to date, we're actually approaching 350 books of all the books that I've published, for which I'm grateful for. And I look at this as a way of God's provision, because I never know what a month's going to look like for royalties. At present, it's the equivalent of a very nice Social Security check, but what it could be next month, I don't know. So I trust in God for whatever comes, and I'm thankful for every one of you who buy and read my books. And since Wednesday to today, I did start another book that I hope to complete sometime next week. Hospice Conditions of Participation, COP for short, not related to the police, but hospice has a number of rules to follow, such as if you have an election to start hospice, it's an elective service, not a location, it's a service. Hospice providers have 2 days to get everything submitted, so there are timelines to meet. So in a few moments, I'll run a clip of the book cover. I usually do the title and the book cover. I'll come up with the title first after I get my research done, and then I'll do the book cover, and then I'll start drafting. And right now, what you'll see on the screen is literally a rough draft of what I've been writing. And for some of you who have been following along with this journey, you may ask a common question is asked of me in person. How do you write these books so fast? Well, part of the issue is, I'm going to give you an example of yesterday where I'm starting writing shortly after 7 a.m. and I went to bed close to midnight. And aside from getting up for eating, taking care of the dogs, and normal activities of living, so I don't want to give TMI, all I am doing is writing. So unlike a work day where you go in and you're taking as many coffee breaks, and I don't smoke, by the way, so I don't have to worry about smoke breaks. We're taking all of these breaks, and you're working maybe an 8-hour day, or if you're a nurse in a hospital, might be doing a 12-hour day. I didn't time it, but I wrote a lot. And that's how I operate, including today. Yes, I went for the men's breakfast, but as soon as I got home, I'm back to writing. And yes, I use Grammarly to assist in checking my grammar and my spelling. But these are also topics that I know very intimately and very well. And I can go out to the Centers for Medicaid Services and look up their toolkits and different manuals and have those resources handy. So this is not writing a fiction novel. I have a number of fiction novels I may write in the future, which I'll be praying a lot then, because I'm probably going to be very slow compared to nonfiction, where it might take me several months to a year, I have no idea, to publish a nonfiction book. I mean, a fiction book, oh my word. But when it comes to nonfiction, these are topics I have dealt with over the past several years, I know intimately. So I'm very grateful for those things. The other thing that I'm grateful for is, after struggling with healthcare choices in retirement, semi-retirement, where I don't have health care through my employer, and Laura got a part-time job. I'm so grateful for that for her. But she's not getting health care. She's doing about 20 hours a week. It's very helpful for what she's bringing in. But what do we do for health care? I thought we applied too late for the Kentucky marketplace. Then I felt like there was some bait and switch, because they asked for verification of income, and I gave them a letter. They asked for clarification of that. I clarified, and then all of a sudden the amounts were changing, even though what I clarified was the exact same amount. So Anyway, long story short, I reached out and got connected with Ariana, a insurance consultant, who's helping us connect and make this journey. And while it's a lot more than what I'd like to pay, at least we'll have coverage. And I think we're going to be starting in March, but we'll see. She submitted all the paperwork today, so thank you for that. So God is always good. So in terms of, let me play a short clip looking at the book that's going to be coming out. Hopefully next week. I do have to have a lot of editing in terms of the APA formatting and the references. But this is going to be dealing with hospice conditions of participation. The main target for this is going to be directors of hospices, and anyone in a leadership position, as well as the hospice registered nurses who want to follow along in terms of, like, what are the regulations? Are we matching those regulations? So let me show you that clip. So this is the book cover, the table of contents, and the introduction page for the book that will be part of the Empowering Hospice Nurses for Excellence series in the very near future. So enough of me and the book publishing venue. Other than a side note, if you're watching this and you do have an interest on how do I self-publish on Amazon Kindle, with the understanding I'm not trying to sell you on consulting services to publish, I can answer some of your questions potentially, and just see if I can help you in that arena. If you have questions on anything related to hospice, especially related to hospice, or even chronic illnesses that can be terminal, please reach out. I've been helping various people over the years via, whether it be Facebook Messenger is my most common method of having these discussions, or maybe just in the comments here on YouTube. That's up to you. But I do have a heart for helping others. And talking about helping others, in the past several episodes, we've been talking about anticipatory grief, which is grieving before you lose somebody, and then grief, which is after the loss. Both of them are impactful. Both of them go through the same 5 stages that don't necessarily go in order. In the very last episode, we were talking about how do you know that you're at the acceptance phase, and that's when the other phases, whether it be anger, the denial, the bargaining, the depression, pop their ugly heads up. You're less impacted emotionally. You're not dragged down as much as when you first experience those feelings. So that's how you know when you're at the acceptance phase. And so I did mention in the title of this video, I really want to focus on how much gratitude makes a difference. How much gratitude makes a difference. Now, a few episodes ago, I mentioned that part of the storms that my wife and I have gone through and from a point of view are still going through in 2025, is we do have a stalker. We do have a stalker. So we have a family member who is very bitter, very hateful, very, they hold a grudge. Uh, and I don't want to go too on about them, but here's part of the issue. And I'm not going to be focusing on what we're going through with stalking. But when you go through an emotional hardship, and this all erupted shortly around the time of my father-in-law suffering a massive brain bleed after a booster from an injectable product that we can't still talk about, as far as I know, on YouTube. Certain other venues you could talk about more openly what that injectable is, but for now you can't. And I got there, and in the ER, hospital staff are not trained. I cannot emphasize this enough. Hospital staff are not trained on keeping anyone comfortable. They are trained on how to rescue those who could be rescued. They're trained on how to save those who could be saved, but they don't get a lot of training. Now, this goes back several years, so in 2025, don't know if things have changed. I don't work in a hospital setting. I haven't worked for years. I'm just familiar in part of 24 until I was laid off in June, because I was still doing evaluations and so forth at hospitals in 2024. But hospital staff aren't trained. So for my father-in-law, when I checked in, what is he receiving for comfort? Nothing. And when I pointed out that he was taking his right hand on it, he was in a comatose-like state, but his right hand digging into his right thigh and blood, coming out of his right thigh. And I said, he needs something for anxiety, for being restless, and something to help calm him down and reduce pain. There were no orders. And so I did not want to put on the hospice hat. I was a family member. I'm the son-in-law. And from the agency that I was working for at the time, Grain Hospice, they sent over Megan, who came to do a GIP, which is a general inpatient evaluation for him. And he was not showing anxiety at the time. And so, caveat for any of you who are in hospice or wondering about how this works, Medicare is unbelievably strict for GIP admissions in the hospice. So there has to be symptoms, I'm going some rabbit trails, symptoms that cannot be controlled in a home or nursing home settings. They typically require IV meds or hospice heavy involvement in giving consultation on what to do. So when she came at that point in time, which was just literally minutes after I got there, at that point in time, he was comfortable, she left, and things can change on the dime when anybody's dying. And this is a part of hospice GIPs that just bluntly, just outright, it sucks horribly. And this is the part that I hate, where I wish Medicare would be more compassionate and liberal from the standpoint of, let the family member or hospital call back. Things change. You don't necessarily need to send somebody to evaluate right then and there, but we do something now. Anyway, long story short, I'm putting on my hat, so to speak, and giving recommendations to the ER nurse. This is what I recommend for the lorazepam, for the Ativan dosing and so on, morphine, blah, blah, blah. Give them, here's a laundry list. And I was grateful that the palliative care doctor from the hospital came in, thanked me for the recommendations, wanted to get into a discussion of what are my thoughts on best practices for secretion management. I love those discussions at other times, but right then and there, I was fighting back tears in the emotional event. My father-in-law is dying, and had to say, I've worked with glycopyrrolate, which is what he wanted to work with, but, for right now, whatever you think is best, because I really want to focus on my father-in-law. But long story short, shortly after that event, my brother-in-law, who for whatever reasons I may never understand, Had issues with my wife long before then, but this was like the nest egg, so to speak, the camel, the needle that broke the camel's back, whatever the phrase would be. And so anything that happened that evening, I did everything wrong. And then when my mother-in-law, who was in a nursing home, was for Alzheimer's, we offered to take her home to our place, but that wouldn't work out for several reasons. My wife's sister lived further away. We need somewhere in the middle, for lack of better words. And so as we're visiting as a hospice nurse, we're very keen on when hospice is appropriate. And I just wrote the book. I did order a author's copy. It should be here by the end of this month or early March. It takes them that long. But The Art of Hospice Prognosis, where I teach other nurses, how do you tell when somebody's appropriate? And if you do this long enough, you know. I've even helped people remotely with reasonable accuracy. Here's where they're at. Because there is a science to it. It is an art. There is a science to it as well. And so I did send I thought it was a professional email. I kept out the emotions. I sent it to everybody, including my brother-in-law, who's not the power of attorney. Because I didn't want, I don't want to offend anyone. I want to include everybody in the loop. And these are my thoughts. Hospice, sooner than later. And I didn't even bring up meds. I focused on the CNA services, the bathing, because that's what the nursing home was complaining of having trouble with, and how much help and the extra set of eyes from the nurse. And the next thing you know, I'm getting a very hateful email from my brother-in-law. We're both white, by the way, Caucasian. I'm white trash, which I found to be humorous. And he's going to talk to the staff. I'm never going to be allowed in the home, blah, 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 blah. I'm just a death dealer, and a lot of other name calling and whatnot. And ever since then, it's just been escalating worse and worse. We've considered restraining orders and so on, but we're also trying to handle it in a compassionate way. So I know I went a lot on that to a degree, but here's the issue. When you go through hardship and you go through a storm and you're facing choices because bitterness is a choice. Resentment is a choice. The initial feelings are not a choice. You get stuck with a needle, it is ouch. If you were to get shot with a gun, God forbid, you're going to experience pain. The initial feelings, they're not choices. The initial feelings are not choices. However, how you react after the initial feelings is always a choice. So bitterness is a choice. Because bitterness is a feeling, but it's never an initial reaction. It might be anger as the initial reaction. Resentment might be initial reaction, but bitterness is when you hold on to all those angry and resentful feelings, which is a choice, and it builds up, and you go down a dark path. So what I cannot recommend enough to any of you watching, and what you do with whatever I share, I have no control over. I control almost nothing. But what I hope is that if you can find anything in your life to be grateful for, and what I tried to share with my brother-in-law, and this is not bragging, but had I not been there to talk to the doctors to say, by the way, he has a pacemaker that has an ICD, it's going to shock him, or could, and find the card, because I knew what I was looking for. If there was not somebody there to point out this is what to do for comfort, he could have been worse off. He passed the next day. But he could have been worse off had I not been there. And while it took, it's always a difficult decision to when to come on to hospice. When to come on to hospice. And I do have a book, When Is It Time for Hospice? But that's a difficult decision, book or no book. This is your loved one. And there are times where we're grasping, maybe it's this or that. In the Hospice of End of Life Forum today, there was a daughter who was asking, she had her mother as CHF and she's struggling, is now the time? If I get hospice now, am I giving up? And the answer, by the way, you're not giving up, because hospice is not giving up. Hospice is focusing on comfort. Last year, 2024, I had a 104-year-old resident that I was recommending to come off of hospice because when I got involved, we're discontinuing, with permission from the family, we're discontinuing all the blood pressure medications. I shared this on another episode. All the blood pressure medications we got rid of, along with the anticoagulant that people call blood thinner. We got rid of all of that. Surprise! She's actually going from being close to comatose, in and out of consciousness, where she's getting up and using her walker and going to the meal room and eating herself. She's feeding herself. She was getting better after hospice got involved and after we discontinued all her blood pressure. She was on 3 or 4, along with the anticoagulant. She was getting better at 104 years old. So hospice is not about, let's make you die. You have to die. No, we're not there to hasten anyone dying. We're there for quality of life. And sometimes when we get involved, that quality increases so much that the person is no longer terminal. Maybe they weren't to begin with. Hospice is elective. You can come off at any point in time. Just communicate. So if you focus on gratitude, there's no room for bitterness. There's no room for resentment. There's no room for anger. So as you're watching, if there's anything in your life that you're grateful for, that you're breathing, even if you're dirt poor, but you're watching, this means that you have something that allows you to be on the internet. Maybe it's the library. Maybe you're on free internet at a library, but you're able to participate in life in one way, shape, or form. Find something to be grateful for and express that gratitude. Now, for me, that gratitude is thank you, Jesus. And while I pray everyone watching this accept Jesus as their Lord, Savior, and King, if now is not the time for you, and I do believe now is the time, any time is an okay time to accept Jesus, but if you're dealing with so many issues that you don't want to talk anything about faith, and to me that's faith versus religion, I'm not here to push anything on you. I'm here to talk about gratitude. But express that gratitude. If you want to express it to a friend, to a colleague, to a coworker, or go to a bathroom, shut the door and yell, I'm so sick and tired of this, but I'm grateful for that. Find something to be grateful for. Because it's in that gratitude and that focus on gratitude that you overcome even the hardest things. Even the hardest things in life. And I'm not saying we overcome death. I'm not saying we overcome addictions completely. Maybe. I believe God can conquer addictions. I don't know if gratitude can. But I do know that gratitude can pull you out of dark places. I know this from personal experience. So I'm hoping that you can find things to be grateful for. So if you like what you're seeing, if you have any questions, whether it be on hospice, palliative care, being a hospice nurse, being a nurse in general, getting into healthcare, volunteering, writing books, dealing with grief, comment. and let's talk. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time, and God bless.